The call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Rebecca Morrison? A woman's voice, official and tired. Yes, who's calling? This is Officer Sarah Martinez with the Metropolitan Police Department. We have your daughter, Ashley Morrison, in custody. She requested to make a call, and your number was in her emergency contacts. My daughter. The daughter who hadn't spoken to me in 5 years. The daughter who blocked my number, returned my letters, and told everyone who would listen that I was a terrible mother who'd abandoned her. What are the charges? I asked, already reaching for my clothes. Felony fraud, identity theft, and grand larceny. Bail's been set at $75,000. She's asking if you can help. I looked at the clock. Not even 3 a.m. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Ma'am, about the bail. I'll handle it. Which precinct? She gave me the address. I hung up and stared at my phone for a long moment. 5 years of silence. 5 years of Ashley telling her husband, her friends, anyone who'd listened that her mother was neglectful, absent, someone who chose her career over family. 5 years of watching from a distance as she built a life that didn't include me. And now, at 2:47 a.m., I was her only call. I got dressed, grabbed my briefcase, and drove to the station. The Metropolitan Police Department's downtown precinct was exactly what you'd expect at 3 a.m. Fluorescent lights, tired officers, and the smell of bad coffee and worse decisions. I'm here about Ashley Morrison, I told the desk sergeant. You the mother. He looked me up and down, simple jeans, blazer, no makeup. Not what he expected from someone posting $75,000 bail. I am. She's in holding. Officer Martinez will brief you. He gestured toward a woman approaching from the back. Officer Martinez extended her hand. Ms. Morrison, thank you for coming so quickly. Your daughter's in serious trouble. Tell me everything. We sat in a small interview room while she laid out the charges. Ashley had been arrested for running an elaborate fraud scheme, creating fake investment portfolios, stealing client identities, and embezzling funds from the boutique marketing firm where she worked. The total damages exceeded $300,000. We caught her trying to board a flight to the Cayman Islands, Officer Martinez said. She had $80,000 in cash in her luggage. And her husband, Eric, claims he knew nothing about it. He's cooperating with investigators. I leaned back in my chair. Can I see her? Before you do, Ms. Morrison, the bail is $75,000. That's cash or bond, if you can't. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Which account should I transfer from? Officer Martinez blinked. I'm sorry? I have the funds. I just need to know where to send them. She stared at me for a moment, then gave me the information. I initiated the transfer, $75,000 from one of my smaller accounts. It barely made a dent. Done, I said. Can I see my daughter now? They brought Ashley to a private meeting room. She looked terrible. Mascara smeared, designer dress rumpled, her carefully maintained image completely shattered. When she saw me, her face cycled through shock, relief, and something that might have been shame. Mom, she whispered. Ashley. We sat across from each other at a metal table. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I didn't know who else to call, she finally said. Eric's furious. His parents won't help. My friends, she laughed bitterly. Turns out they're not really friends when you get arrested for fraud. How long has this been going on? 2 years. Maybe longer. I don't know anymore. It started small, just borrowing a little from one client to cover another. Then it spiraled. Why? Because Eric's family has money, real money, and I was just the girl from nowhere with the absent mother and no family to speak of. She looked at me with hollow eyes. I needed to prove I belonged in their world. So you committed fraud. So I did whatever it took to maintain the image. She wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara further. They're going to send me to prison, aren't they? Probably. Can you help me? I know we haven't talked in 5 years. I know I said terrible things about you. But you're a lawyer, right? You can. I'm not a lawyer, Ashley. She frowned. But you said, years ago, you said you worked at a law firm. I do work at a law firm. I own it, Morrison and Associates. 12 attorneys, 3 locations, specializing in criminal defense and corporate law. Her mouth fell open. You own a law firm. For 18 years now. Built it from the ground up after your father died. But you never told me. I tried, many times. You were too busy being ashamed of me to listen. Ashley's face crumpled. I told everyone you were a paralegal, that you barely made enough to support yourself, that you were so focused on your little job you ignored me my whole life. I know, I've heard the stories. How? People talk, Ashley, and when your daughter tells everyone her mother is a neglectful career woman who abandoned her, word gets around. I folded my hands on the table. What you didn't know is that half the people you told those stories to were my clients, my colleagues, or people who know exactly who I am. She went pale. Oh God. Eric's parents. His father asked about my family at the engagement party. I told them you were a paralegal who couldn't afford to come. James Morrison is one of my oldest clients. I've handled 3 major cases for his company. He knew exactly who I was. He just didn't correct you. Ashley looked like she might be sick. This whole time, they knew I was lying? This whole time, they watched you lie, just like I did. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you expose me? I leaned forward. Because I kept hoping you'd stop, that you'd choose truth over fiction, that you'd realize no amount of pretending would make you into someone you're not. I was ashamed of you, she whispered. You wore cheap clothes, drove an old car, lived in that tiny apartment. Eric's mother has a mansion, a driver, designer, everything. And my mother was just ordinary. I live in a modest apartment because I prefer it. I drive an older car because it runs perfectly fine. I wear simple clothes because I'm comfortable. I paused. But if you'd bothered to ask, you'd know I also own a 6-bedroom house in the suburbs that I use for hosting charity events. I have a vintage Mercedes I drive on weekends. I have closets full of designer clothes I wear to court. I just don't need to display it all the time. Why not? Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. My work speaks for itself. My reputation speaks for itself. I built something real, Ashley, not an image. Something real. She was crying now. I've ruined everything. My marriage, my career, my life, and the one person who could have helped me be better. I pushed away because I was embarrassed. Yes, you did. Can you forgive me? I looked at my daughter, the little girl I'd raised alone, worked 3 jobs to support, put through private school and college, the young woman who repaid me by erasing me from her life story. I can forgive you, but I can't save you from the consequences of your choices. What does that mean? It means I paid your bail because you're my daughter and I love you, but I'm not representing you. I'm not making this go away. I'm not enabling you to keep living in fantasy. But you're a criminal defense attorney. You have to help me. No, Ashley. I don't. I have to let you face what you've done. That's the only way you'll ever become the person you're supposed to be. So what? You're just going to abandon me? Prove me right about everything I said? I'm not abandoning you. I'm here. I posted your bail. I'll make sure you have competent legal representation from one of my partners. I'll visit you, support you, help you through this. But I won't save you from yourself. Not this time. She stared at me, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand. I know, but you will, eventually. Officer Martinez returned to process Ashley's release. As we walked through the station, Ashley suddenly stopped. Mom, the bail, $75,000. How did you have that much money just available at 3 a.m.? I have considerably more than that available, Ashley. I've been investing and saving for 30 years. I'm worth approximately $12 million. She swayed slightly. $12 million? Give or take, the market fluctuates. And you let me think you were struggling. You let me be ashamed of you. I didn't let you do anything. You chose to be ashamed. You chose to believe I was unsuccessful because I didn't flaunt wealth. You chose to lie about me rather than learn the truth. We reached the exit. Eric was waiting outside, his face a mixture of anger and confusion. Ashley, we need to talk, he started, then noticed me. Mrs. Morrison. I didn't expect. Rebecca, please. I think we're past formalities. I turned to my daughter. Ashley, you'll need to meet with the attorney I assigned to you tomorrow at 10 a.m. at my office. Don't be late. Your office? I handed her a business card. Morrison and Associates. The address is on the card. There's also my direct line. Use it if you need anything. Ashley looked at the card. CEO and founding partner. Rebecca Morrison, JD. I do have a law degree, Ashley. I passed the bar 30 years ago, top of my class. Eric was reading over her shoulder. Wait, Morrison and Associates is yours? We looked into hiring them last year for corporate counsel, but their fees were too high. He stopped, realizing what he just said. Yes, we're expensive, because we're the best. I looked at Ashley. Which is why I'm not charging you. Family discount. Mom, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't make me regret bailing you out. I walked to my car. The 15-year-old Honda Ashley had always been embarrassed by. As I drove away, I could see her in my rearview mirror, standing under the harsh street lights, finally seeing clearly for the first time in years. Ashley showed up at my office the next morning at 9:45 a.m. My assistant brought her to my corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, original artwork on the walls, furniture that whispered rather than shouted money. "This is where you work?" Ashley asked, looking around. "This is where I built my career while you were busy being ashamed of me, yes." She flinched. "I deserve that. You deserve worse. But we don't have time for what you deserve. We need to discuss your case." I introduced her to Marcus Chen, one of my senior partners and an excellent criminal defense attorney. We spent 2 hours going over her options. The truth was grim. The evidence was overwhelming, the prosecution motivated, and the damages substantial. "Best case scenario," Marcus said, "we negotiate a plea deal. Maybe 3 to 5 years if we demonstrate remorse and cooperation." Ashley's face went white. "Prison. I'm going to prison." "Yes," I said simply. "You committed serious crimes, Ashley. There are consequences." "But Eric's family has connections. Political connections. Can't we?" "No," Marcus and I said simultaneously. "We don't operate that way," I continued. "We defend our clients zealously within the bounds of the law. We don't pull strings or buy justice. That's not who we are." "Even for your own daughter?" "Especially for my own daughter, because if I taught you nothing else, I should have taught you that integrity matters more than image." She was quiet for a long moment. "I told everyone you were a bad mother, that you neglected me, that you were selfish and career-obsessed. I know. None of it was true. You worked 3 jobs to send me to private school. You never missed a recital or game. You paid for my college in full so I wouldn't have debt. You did everything right and She broke down completely. "I threw it back in your face because I was embarrassed you weren't rich enough to impress Eric's family. And now? Now I find out you're richer than them, more successful than them, more respected than them. And I destroyed our relationship for nothing." I walked around my desk and sat next to her. "Not for nothing, Ashley. You learned something important." "What's that?" "That the image you project isn't who you are. That lying about your life doesn't change reality. That eventually the truth comes out, usually at the worst possible moment. At 2:47 a.m., when you get arrested for fraud," she said bitterly. "Exactly." Marcus gathered his papers. "I'll give you two some privacy. Ashley, I'll file the initial motions today. We'll talk strategy next week." After he left, Ashley and I sat in silence. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "When I called you at 3 a.m. from jail, why did you come? After everything I said about you, everything I did, why help me?" "Because you're my daughter. Because I love you. Because walking away from you in your darkest moment would have made everything you said about me true. I don't deserve you." "No, you don't. But that's never been the point. Love isn't about deserving." She wiped her eyes. "What happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices. You go to court. You probably go to prison. You lose the life you built on lies and start over with something real. And you? Will you be there? Every step, every court date, every visiting day, if it comes to that. I'm your mother, Ashley. That doesn't change just because you wish it did." She hugged me then, really hugged me, for the first time in 5 years. "I'm so sorry for everything." "I know, and someday you'll have the chance to be better, to build a life based on truth instead of fiction, to become someone you don't have to lie about." "Will I ever be someone you're proud of?" I pulled back and looked at her. "Ashley, I've always been proud of you. I just wanted you to be proud of yourself, genuinely proud of who you really are, not who you pretend to be." 3 months later, Ashley pleaded guilty to fraud and embezzlement. The judge sentenced her to 4 years in federal prison, with the possibility of parole after 2. I was there when she was sentenced. I was there when they took her away in handcuffs. And I was there every visiting day for the next 2 years, until she was released on parole. When Ashley walked out of prison, she was different, quieter, more genuine, less concerned with appearances, and more focused on substance. She got a job as a bookkeeper at a small nonprofit. She lived in a modest apartment. She drove a used car. She called me every Sunday. And when people asked about her mother, she told them the truth. My mom is the most successful person I know. Not because of her money or her career, but because she loved me enough to let me fail. And that saved my life. The bail money, the $75,000 I wired at 3 a.m., I never asked her to pay it back. Because some investments aren't about money. They're about giving someone you love the chance to find their way home, even when the journey starts at rock bottom. Even when it takes years. Even when all you can do is answer the phone at 2:47 a.m. and say, "I'll be there in 20 minutes." Because that's what real love looks like. Not the image. The truth.